Yes, we
Well,
have some new people, so you have to introduce CCG, what CCG is all about.
yes, yes. A very happy evening to all. Once again, we welcome you yet another 2020 series, which is being conducted by our Career Connections group. We know many of you have experienced intuitionists before, a gut instinct that helps us to make a decision at an important juncture in all our life. And here she comes, our HR magician, our very own Harni Srinivasan, to explain more about in our style. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. So, once again, very good evening to everyone. And today's topic is something which took me also by surprise because this is a very, very interesting area which we haven't really tried to analyze. So, what better way to analyze this topic than let my friend Anamika go through her exploration? So, for those of you who don't know Anamika, who Anamika is yet, Anamika is a fiction of my imagination, and there is any resemblance to anyone living or dead is purely coincidental. But Anamika is a figment of my imagination. She lives through my experiences. So, Anamika, again, an HR manager, she was doing an assessment of the leaders in her organization. And she was trying to see what are the kind of competencies, what are the kind of behaviors that the leaders in her organization bring to the table. And she found two distinctly similar leaders in the sense both of them came from amazing academic background. They came with a lot of rich experience behind them. Both of them were business heads in her organization. Still, she found one of them slightly different than the other, and she was trying to introspect and try to see what is it that makes her comfortable with one of them. So, for the sake of convenience, let's give both of them names. Okay, I like names from the Jataka tales. So, the first leader, his name is Shatabuddhi, and the second leader, his name is Ekabuddhi. So, Anamika has these two leaders in front of her, and she's trying to draw out. Both of them are extremely intelligent, but what is it that makes Ekabuddhi really stand out from the crowd? So when she's looking at the way they take decisions, both of them are extremely good decision makers, and both of them have taken decisions for the organization which have been beneficial and which have been very, very logical, reasonable, and all of that. So what is their decision making style? Now, Shatabuddhi is somebody who's very, very thorough, and he would ask for a lot of backup data, a lot of information to validate a proposal. And then he would do his calculations, he would validate his own calculations, and then take a decision. That's a very intelligent way of doing it. Ekabuddhi, on the other hand, was very well known for taking decisions by thinking about them and by using his gut feel. And many a time his decisions were bang on and they were always correct and they were for the organization and for its people. And he would do that kind of seamlessly without asking for data. That's where Anamika felt, yeah, that's where there is a difference between intelligence and intelligence built through intuition. So, what is coming in defense of Ekabuddhi here as someone who is cut above the rest is his intuitive intelligence that is playing. So now let's take let's dissect these terms. A lot of jargons that keep coming: intuition, intelligence, intuitive intelligence, intelligent intuition, so on and so forth. So let's take let's dissect these jargons and let's see what is it that makes up the intuitive intelligence. Intuitive intelligence, to my mind, actually comprises of four aspects, right? So let's look at each one of them and then we will wind it up and then I will leave it open for questions and deliberations. I want you all to listen very carefully and try to see if you can find any parallels in your life. The first aspect of intuitive intelligence, very simply put, is look at things holistically. Okay. So when you look at things holistically, what is it that you're trying to look at is, uh, let's take business, for instance. Traditionally, it was felt that businesses are all about making money, they're all about revenue generation, they're all about taking the business, the organization to the next level, so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to looking at things holistically, businesses are not just about revenue generation. They're not just about the top line and the bottom line. They're also a lot about what is it that you're doing as a business for betterment of the society. So someone who's building on his intuitive intelligence will start building on this aspect of looking at the business, looking at business, at decisions that he's taking with a lot of intuition or intelligence that is built on his intuition. So when he's taking a decision, he will not really require data, but he will start looking at, if I take these decisions, what is it that I am doing as a value add to the society? What is it that I am doing as a value add to the society so that I'm able to generate more business, so on and so forth. So he's looking at that aspect of the business. The second aspect of intuitive intelligence is look at things paradoxically, get a paradoxical view of things. Now, traditionally, one would say that if you want to take intelligent decisions in business or for the business, you have to start identifying what are the measurable or the tangible goals. And it's all about numbers and spreadsheets and tangible goals and how do you put people on balanced scorecards, so on and so forth. But when you're looking at things paradoxically for the betterment of the business, you'll also realize that empowering your people is something that you have to do first before you even look at those numbers or you look at how to achieve those numbers. So when you're standing at the threshold to decide where is it that your numbers need to go next, I think it's what an intuitively intelligent leader would do is take a step back and look at how am I going to achieve those numbers rather than just looking at the numbers. So an intuitively intelligent leader would take a step back and look at driving empowerment in the people, would look at building more accountability in the people so that they are the ones who not only fix those numbers, but also drive to achieve those numbers. So that's the second aspect of intuitive intelligence. The third aspect of intuitive intelligence is look for the unusual and look for the unheard. Right? So there are lots of things that we call as sometimes call as gray point that happens in the organization. We also hear a lot of things where people do not speak up, but their actions tell us a lot of things. So an intelligent leader would actually look at what is being said or what is being stated. But an intuitive leader or someone who has built his intuitive intelligence will be able to go and look into people's minds, look into their brains, and try and understand what are their actions telling us. So when it comes to taking decisions, if you are an intuitively intelligent leader, you would be able to take a lot more people-centric decisions. You'll be able to demonstrate a lot more empathy. And the fourth aspect of an intuitive leader is lead by influence or become an influencer, right? So when an intuitive or when an intelligent leader is actually, moving away from being a manager, not doing micromanagement and starting to become a leader, an intelligent leader would actually set expectations. That's what a leader would do. Set expectations, be very clear about his expectations, communicate his expectations with clarity, watch how people are doing, help them, support them when they are delivering to expectations, so on and so forth. But a leader who has developed intuitive intelligence works a lot from, not just being pragmatic, but also bringing in a lot of reason to how people are behaving the way they are behaving. So an intuitive leader would be someone who would lead not by setting expectations, but by setting examples, right? So examples always enable people to get influenced by you, and expectations will only create followers. So the difference between an intelligent leader and an intuitive leader in the fourth aspect is that the intelligent leader is someone who will have a fan following, will have followers. But an intuitively intelligent leader will have someone who are influenced by his way of thinking or by his way of doing things. So these are the four broad aspects of intelligence and intuition. Now, if you look at all these aspects and try to bring in some neuroscience into it, uh, no, these are things which I was sitting back and thinking, and probably that's what Anamika also did. And what Anamika's observation was that intuition is something which is sitting on the borderline between scientific and analytical and feelings and emotions. Intuition is something which is sitting on the borderline between reality and imagination. Intuition is something which is sitting on the borderline between data and emotions. So when you're developing intelligence in the organization purely based on data, what you're likely to miss is the people centric aspect of it, because you're working pragmatically and you're constantly working only with your head. And like I often say, a balance between the head and the heart becomes absolutely necessary. You need to know when to play which one. You can't be a successful dynamic leader if you play only with your head at all times and do not have that empathy and people centric feeling. You cannot be a charismatic leader if you are all the time only playing with your heart and with a complete disconnect from where the business wants to head. You can be intelligent in your decisions when you're working with either of your head or your heart. But if you have to be intuitively intelligent, then it is that you have to work both with the head and the heart with a perfect balance, and when to leverage what. So when intuition is something which is actually bordering between all of these, it becomes a very, very important aspect where a lot of focus has to be given on how you practice it. Because anything that borders so narrowly on two things is something where you can very easily slip on either side of the wall. So it's like a tightrope walk. So developing intuitive intelligence, to my mind, is a very I would say it's a need of the hour when it comes to being a leadership attribute, right? So why is intuitive intelligence suddenly coming up now as a conversation? Why are we even talking about it? And this is where Anamika also got this feeling that right now we are in a situation where there's a lot of uncertainty around. Uh, Businesses are still very uncertain. How are they going to redefine their business goals? Uh, Business leaders are wondering what are their stakes going to be now? How are they going to redefine their teams? uh, People down the line are very uncertain. One is because many a time they do not have a lot of information, and they're grappling to find information. And when you're grappling to find information, there's a lot of information overload that you're getting from social media. There's a lot of information overload that you're getting from media. And there's a lot of overload of information that you're getting from your own organization, which comes from all directions. While all this information keeps adding to the information, the intelligence that you have. Now, intelligence is basically the accumulation of all these information points, wherein you're able to draw trends and patterns. So while all these pieces of information are actually building on your intelligence, what's happening is if you start working on the border between data and feelings, if you start working on the border between reality and imagination, you start developing on intuition. So when I say border between reality and imagination is, uh, reality is data, that is what that speaks to you. But imagination is something where you start feeling other people's emotions, where you start feeling yourself in the other's shoes. So intuition is something where you're actually giving your ear to what is unsaid and what is even sometimes unheard by others. And in so uncertain times like this, and when we are actually treading very, very carefully towards what's going to happen tomorrow, more than intelligence which is developed by collecting a lot of data and experience behind you, intuition is a lot more important, because that is what is going to help you develop the people-centric aspect. Now, this is very interesting as a concept, because we have been toying around with being emotionally intelligent for a long, long time. And suddenly emotional intelligence has come up a big way now, and we're all talking about being emotionally intelligent. Now, let me take the next 3 or 4 minutes in trying to say how emotional intelligence actually plays a pivotal role to develop intuition or intuitive intelligence. Now, when you're having a very high emotional quotient, okay, uh, you're actually working very hard towards developing your intuitive intelligence. When your emotional quotient is very high, your intuitive intelligence is likely to be very high. When your IQ, intelligence quotient, is very high, obviously your intelligence will be very high. Now, when your emotional quotient is very high, and when your intuition works really, really hard, what happens is you're absolutely at all the time putting yourself in other people's shoes, and you're working very hard to ensure that they get the best of what they deserve. And you're completely keeping the intelligence away. Now, flipping too much on any one side is also dangerous, and therefore, just like any other behavioral trait, emotional quotient being extremely high, with not having a proper balance with the intelligence quotient, or with intuition being extremely high with not having a proper balance with intelligence, could be dangerous. Now, how it could be dangerous is sometimes too much of even the best, like we say that eating too much of sweet leaves a bad taste in your throat when you've done too much. There's a very typical saying that goes in Tamil, which is related to that. Similarly, when there is too much of emotional quotient, when there's too much of intuition, with not an enough balance on intelligence, what can happen is, it's a possibility. Now, I'm not claiming this, but what can happen is, when you're focused on being very intuitive and taking only intuitive decisions without balancing with intelligence, there's a very strong possibility that you may not be able to take risks. You may become slightly risk averse, and you may not be very fond of taking a popular decision. But not taking a very unpopular decision, sorry. So when it comes to having to take the right decision with a balance between pragmatism and being emotional, a balance between being intuitive alone or intelligent alone is to drive in intuitive intelligence, where you actually work with a balance between the head and the heart. So this is a very small concept, but this is something that we all need to sit back and reflect on. What is our decision making style? Okay, if your decision making style is entirely reliant only on data, only on what the trends and patterns that you're seeing in front of you in black and white, there's a very strong possibility that your decisions might get delayed or slowed down. And now is a time when people have to really get charged up and start thinking on their feet, because there is a very strong chance that you may not have the luxury of time to revise your decisions, because now suddenly we are going to open up after the pandemic, and there's going to be a mad race in how competition is going to surge ahead. So while intelligence keeps getting built up, I think leaders have to develop the skill of being intuitive, feeling a pulse of the people, and imagining what the data could look like, not really waiting for the data, and then taking decisions based on that. Now, if you look back in history, a lot of our leaders who have been extremely successful in the past, let's look at some of our very, very successful business owners. India has come up with so many successful business owners. They were all functioning at a time, they grew their businesses at a time when data analytics was not so easy. Now you get everything by the click of a button and on your fingertips, literally on your fingertips, with all the apps and your touch sensitive devices throwing up dashboards. So we have a lot of intelligence built into it. So taking decisions based on the data is pretty reasonably easy, I would say. But if you look at those olden days, I mean, let's look at businesses which started flourishing. I've been reading about a lot of these businesses which came during the partition. People came from Pakistan, set up businesses in India, and they are huge business houses today. Okay, and how would they have taken their business decisions at that time when information sharing was not very easy, when things were not available at their fingertips, and when they had to put a lot of effort to collate data, to get information, and to look at trends and take decisions. But they did grow at an alarming rate at that time and became established businesses now. How would their decisions have been? And I'm very sure their decisions would have been a lot of using intuition, that is, looking at what is in the border of reality and imagination, and thereby from there taking the decision. So it's a concept which is sounding very novel because we are heading into challenging times, positively challenging times, where we are expected to take decisions and quick decisions. That is what is expected of the leaders today. So leaders today are expected to take accurate but quick decisions. While you have data with you available, there is a very strong possibility that you may not have all the data at all times. And that's the time you have to resort to intuition and not rely only on your intelligence. So that's all from me on the monologue part of the 20 minutes, where I've given, dissected the concept of intuition, intelligence, and intuitive intelligence. And now, like we normally do, I would strongly encourage people to start asking questions, sharing thoughts, whether you have come across, are you able to understand the difference between people you have come across where you saw intelligence at play or where you saw intuition at play. And now the floor is open, and I'll be happy to hear thoughts, views, and address any questions.
Actually, it was a very nice session, especially when it comes to intuitive intelligence. From my side, I could say that one of the person which has been observed is Dhoni. Probably a lot of intelligence kind of thing. They probably in cricket they'll be having, and Dhoni will be taking a decision based on the intuition, but automatically at the back end there will be sort of intelligence will be there. Because when it is coming
Yes.
to an organization, we may find it very hard to find a particular people with the intuitive intelligence. Probably we at the side, we may think that this person is more intelligent. We may not know whether this person is taking a intuition based intelligence decision. But on the field, which is really open now, and everyone can see Dhoni in such a way, because it has been proved that many a times he has taken a decision based on his intuition based intelligence.
Hmm. Yeah. So actually, for that matter, if you look at a lot of players and captains on the field, when they are in the sport, intuitive intelligence plays a major role. So although I'm not a great fan of cricket, but I would still say that when there is a team game happening and when there's a captain who has to take a decision there, thinking on his feet, he cannot go back and refer to data or trends and practices and all that. So when he makes a quick decision, thinking on his feet, that is somewhere where an intuition or a gut feel would play. And you rightly pointed out that aspect, Prakash. It is sometimes very difficult to guess at the workplace where intuition is working and where intelligence is working. But one thumb rule to identify people who rely a lot on intuition is when intuition is working harder than intelligence, the decision maker will not ask for data. Okay, the decision maker will work on a lot of assumptions. So if you look at someone who is working on a lot of assumptions and not asking for validation, then you know that intuition is more at play and not intelligence. Because when intelligence is at play, the person will ask for a lot of information and will ask for a lot of validation of that information. And that is why, for thinking on the feet, for taking quick decisions, if you're able to develop your intuitive ability as a leader, that is, work on assumptions, but very strong assumptions which have a pretty good foundation, and also have the ability of taking calculated risks. If you see such a person, I think that person is one where intuition is working very hard. And in current times, intuitive leaders will be the ones who will lead businesses into success.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And another one observation, probably, when it is coming to non-IT industry, many a times this industrial relations HR has to take an intuitive intelligence when they are dealing with the unions and as well as some other people like that. Will that these people have to really work on the intuitive intelligence rather than completely?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought this topic. I felt I was missing this, Prakash, but this is fantastic. Now, I'll give you another example, a real life example, which I went through in one of my previous organizations where we had multiple unions working because it was a multinational. But the Indian, they grew inorganically in India by acquiring small companies, and it was a manufacturing organization, an engineering manufacturing organization. So we had acquired multiple small organizations in India, and each of those manufacturing facilities had one or two unions, very active unions. Now, this being an American multinational, one of the tasks they kind of told us in India, the leadership team in India, is one is you have to bust all these unions. And the second thing is you have to prevent unions from getting formed, right? Now, this is, it's easy to say this, but we all know how difficult or impossible it is. Busting unions that have already formed just doesn't happen. So what we actually went back and told them is unions get formed, okay? And the only way to deal with them is by using intuition a lot, by developing our intelligence based on intuition. What we can do is, work with our intuition so much and keep developing that intelligence so that we know if there's anything that's, whether there's a problem that can come, whether we need to bust a problem that's coming. And we can also use intuition to prevent formation of further smaller groups. And we can manage those group dynamics by building our intelligence based on intuition. And not only among the blue-collared workers, actually speaking, if you ask me, unions get formed even amongst the white-collared employees. Okay? Any group of people who join in together and instead of speaking for themselves, if they start speaking, if they nominate someone to speak on their behalf, it's nothing but a union. Okay? And intuition is the only way leaders of organizations can manage to keep union behavior at bay or under check. Forming of unions is not bad because they are groups, and when people are working, there will be groups, then there will be dynamics within the groups and between the groups. But what is really important is leaders should know how to keep union behavior at bay so that the productivity is not stopped and the organization functions seamlessly. And there, intuition plays a much stronger role. Yeah. What else? Do we have any more questions?
This is Raghunathan here. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask Raghunathan here?
Yes.
So I just wanted to. I just heard your talk. I am very happy today I could join in time and listen to you fully. So can we say that the gambling instinct in a person is same as an intuition? Can we say that?
Gambling instinct in the context of gambling itself?
No, not in the gambling instinct. That's why I said gambling instinct in a person. So it's neither based on rational nor totally drawn away by emotions. So in that way, it is in between. So in that way, it is in between. So I just wanted to know whether intuitive intelligence has something close to it.
Gambling instinct is, if you look at it from a neuroscience perspective, gambling instinct is definitely a form of intuition. But again, if you ask me, you should always look at what is the intent, whether you want to subscribe to a behavior or not. If the intent is towards betterment of the society, then that gambling is perfectly right. That is when you're taking decisions as a gamble. If it is something, if the intent is something where it's important, where it is going to be for the betterment of the society or the public in general or the organization, that's a calculated gamble, I would say. But theoretically speaking, gambling is intuition because you're working on your gut feel and you're working without any data or rationale or any science. Absolutely. Similarly, I would also look at any if you pick any miscreant criminal activity that we come across in the newspapers, what is wrong is the intent behind it. Okay, the methodology is flawless. if there is proper planning and execution, it is nothing but project management. But why it is bad is because the intent is something for the damage of the society. Similarly, a gambling instinct, if the intent is for the betterment of the organization or for its people, then I think it is an intuition which should be encouraged. And some people really have that skill.
Thank you.
Another one thought process, probably. When the millennials are recruited, generally, when they say that no, it has been 2 years with the company, I don't feel that I'm just the part of the company, I'm just moving out of the company. Sometimes they used to give some kind of a sort of answers to the company. But in such a case, I think we need to be intuitively analyzing these particular millennials, because millennials are more intelligent in giving some data which is not needed to the HR or somebody else, hiding the original data. So that observation comes first in terms of that, and the intuition plays a very bigger part to understand millennials. Is it right, ma'am?
Yes. See, not just millennials, but I think intuition plays a major role when it comes to predictive behavior in the organization. So when it comes to attrition, my take has always been that you have to start anticipating or predicting attrition before the attrition really happens, right? So not necessary for the millennials, because I am an advocate of millennials, and for me, the generation really doesn't matter. What really matters to me is why is it that someone is planning to quit the organization. If you are an intuitive leader, or if you are an intuitive HR professional, you would definitely be able to understand this much before the event really occurs. You should be able to catch the signals very, very early, and that's where intuition plays a role. When I'm saying intuition, it's even before signals like absenteeism, etc., are seen. Even before that. And how do you notice, how does intuition come into play even before that is when the person is in the organization and is appearing very normal, behaving very normal, but you see some kind of an unrest, some kind of a detachment from the organization, etc., then your intuition there would take its role. It could be someone who just generally complains about things. Even there you can intuitively predict that something can go wrong. So you can use intuition to notice engagement or disengagement very, very early, even before it ends in actual exit of the employee.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, during a process,
I have a please continue, Prakash.
No, Arun sir, you continue, sir.
No, actually, this is connected with the same question Prakash asked. So, actually, what we are explaining about actually, you are talking about signals.
Yes.
Signals we are identifying. So,
Yes.
don't you think that it is so purely information and it's intelligence based? Actually, all this is not intuitive. Actually, decisions are not intuitive. It is based on informations that you are getting. All these are intelligence based informations you are taking, and you are making judgment on informations, data, and not intuition.
Okay, what is so let's look at it like this. When someone is showing when there is absenteeism, okay, repeated absenteeism. Let me take the example of attrition. That is information because that's information because your attendance data will show that information. That is data. Okay.
Yes.
That is information. So when someone is not responding to whatever he's supposed to be doing at work, that is again data, because you'll be able to show defaulters list and all that. Okay, that is data, that is information. So when you're taking decisions based on these things, you're taking those decisions just before the event is about to occur. Okay.
No, based on that, no, as you said, based on that, you are already there's also signals. So based on that, you already started. Actually, we are ready for we are being proactive to the decisions. We are proactive. That means it is purely intelligence based. It is not intuition based.
See, correct. See, when you're taking decision on talking to the individual after he started becoming absent, after he started defaulting in his duties, etc., then your decision to have a retention conversation with him or to investigate what went wrong with him, what is prompting him to do that, is your decision which is based on intelligence that you have. Okay. But when someone is joining the organization and you're having these conversations with that person randomly without any agenda, without any data, and you're finding that
intuition.
there is some that is intuition.
intuition.
So when you proactively go several steps before the event, okay, and you're already starting creating platforms for him to feel more engaged with his manager or get the manager to break the ice, etc. Even before your data of detachment starts or disengagement starts flowing in, that is intuition. So when you take your decision at that point, even before information and trends and patterns start appearing on your dashboards, then you're taking the decision based on intuition. You're working on your gut. Okay, I'll give you another example. There was this individual who came to us as a candidate. He was someone who had the history of quitting jobs every 3 to 6 months. Okay, and he was with my organization also in the past, and he resigned in 6 months and put the project into trouble. But the same project manager wanted him back after a few years when I was there, saying that somehow get this guy on board because he possesses this niche skill. Okay. Now I was asked to, and the entire interview panel, the HR panel had said that we will not hire him because data says that he's somebody who quits very often. He runs away very often. That's what our data says, and therefore he will not stay on. But I said, if this guy is ready to come for this interview and he's going to have a conversation with me, let me not base my decision of his hiring only on that data. Okay. Yes. When I had this conversation with him, I didn't ask him questions about why are you joining now? Why did you leave the previous organization? Blah, blah, blah. I just told him, tell me the story of your life. Okay. He told me a whole lot of things which was not about the business we are in. It was not about his career. It was not about his jobs. It was not about the reasons for quitting organizations. He told me about his passion for investment banking, which was absolutely different from the engineering business we were in. Okay. He told me about his experiments he did over there. He told me about his fears of failures. Okay. Now that gave me an intuition that if I'm able to handle his fear of failures and give him a psychologically safe environment in our organization, and I'm going to fuel and also help him fuel his passion for investment banking in some other way, he's going to stay on. And my intuitive decision was to hire him.
No, wait. Actually, now also you have done something research on certain parameters, and it is again now it is a special data.
No, it's not data.
It's a
the simple
special
reason
data.
That
it's
not data. It's not data.
Now.
It is no. I'll tell you why it's not data. It's not data because it is not tangible. Okay, he's talking to me about his feelings. When I'm asking him about his journey of his life, he's talking to me about his feelings. He's talking to me about moments where moments which make him feel insecure. He's talking to me about things that make him happy. Now, these are all not tangible. He's not telling me that a promotion would make me happy. Okay. He's telling me what he feels when he feels he's happy. He's telling me what he feels. So I just triggered a lot of his emotions. Now, I am building my intelligence based on intuition. Now, this is a gut feel that if I'm able to take care of his fears, he will stay on. There is no data which guarantees to me that if I take care of his fears, he will stay on. Okay. If I have data and trends and patterns which tell me that, okay, this guy, if I manage his fears, if I give him the platform of safety, he will stay on. That was my intuition. There is no data which told me that. And that is why it is intuition. Now, I work a lot with studying emotions, letting people ask questions. When they ask questions, I try to read their minds and then take decisions based on how I read their minds. Now, my inference from that could sound like a data, but what made me make that inference is my intuition.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Arun sir, is it fine?
It's on the borderline, so I can understand. There'll always be some,
yeah, it is a thin line between the
because
and
it's on the because see, anything which is on the borderline between reality and imagination, it is always debatable.
No, madam, you are very right. Actually, you cannot live without intuition at all. Intuition is very much essential for any decisions. Intuition is very much essential.
Of course. Now, what happens is, see, what happens is intuition. We are all born with intuition. Okay, gut feel. Everyone has. If you're human, you have gut feel. But what happens is, we are in when we get into the corporate world, we are told to be cautious and we are told to take decisions based on information, because that is, it's always safe. You can fall back on the data. If your decision goes wrong, you can say, this is what the data said, and therefore I took the decision. But when it comes to taking quick decisions, when you don't have the luxury of time to wait for data and its analysis, then it makes a lot of sense to fall back on your intuition.
Yes. So very much true, madam. Very much true. Very nice, madam. Very nice explanation.
Thank you so much. So it's about recognizing where that borderline is. That's what it's all about.
I have one final question, I think so.
Yes.
Whenever we
let others also ask questions.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever we interview any candidate, sometimes even the candidate answers all the particular questions very promptly, and sometimes we feel that, okay, this candidate may not be suitable for the position. So how that decision is made? Is the decision is made due to intuition or intelligence?
Yeah, why do you feel a candidate may not be suitable? Why do you feel?
So based on the observation, what the person is really looking at the interview.
Yeah. So when you're looking at when you say, okay, suppose somebody asks you why this person is not suitable, and you say, yeah, he's not suitable because he's been switching jobs, like how I was told about that candidate. If you say that he's not suitable because he comes from a background which won't fit in our culture, then it is data, it is information, so it is intelligence. But if sometimes you get that feeling that I don't get good vibes from this person, okay,
correct.
Now this is not this. Now the good vibes and bad vibes, these are not validated. This is just a feeling, okay, and therefore you may say that somehow I'm not getting positive vibes from this candidate, and maybe it's a risk to make him an offer, and let's not go ahead with this candidate. We sometimes say that.
Yes, ma'am.
And because it is not validated, it is not taken. Okay. So intuition, you can put a lot of weight on intuition and you can take a decision, but you'll have to be cognizant of the fact that you will not be able to validate your intuitive decisions. And if somebody is asking you for a validation, you won't be able to validate, and therefore you may not be able to take those decisions. You might end up succumbing to whatever your seniors tell you. They did not go by your intuition, but later on you might realize that your intuition was correct. But if you are the decision maker, okay, and if you're getting these strong intuitive feelings, you don't need to seek a validation for it yourself. That's what I'm saying. If you are a decision maker, not when you're proposing something, when you're a decision maker, and if you have an intuition and it's a gut feel, it's a strong gut feel, don't wait for validating it. Develop the ability to take that calculated risk of going by your intuition, guided by your intuition. So that will make you a leader cut above the rest if you're developing that skill. Obviously, by the time you reach a leadership position, a decision making position, you should practice that skill. Like any other skill, it is something which needs to be practiced. You should know what is the calculated risk, where is that border. So that's when you take a decision by your gut feel, and if it is correct, if it's bullseye, then it will be a decision which is taken quickly and accurately.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
All right. If yeah, so it is 9:05 by my clock. So if we have to wind the session, we can.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bala Venkatesh.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Madam, this intuition during the interview, will it help?
Yes, of course. Intuition always helps when you are when you're absolutely you're practiced it well. Okay. The problem with intuition is it can bias you sometimes, right? And if you're not able to recognize the bias, then it could become counterproductive. But if you're able to acknowledge and recognize your biases, and then you're relying on intuition, it will help. For example, if I have a bias against a particular language speaking population, okay, and just because that person belongs to that language community, if I say my intuition is that he will not fit in this place, then that's a bias which is actually clouding my intuition. But if I'm conscious of my personal biases, everybody has biases. If you're human, you have bias. If I'm conscious of my personal biases, and I know for a fact that the bias is not clouding over my intuition, and still there is a feeling where I'm getting this feeling that this person is not the right candidate, then you can go by your intuition. But acknowledging your personal biases and handling your bias is something that you should be very, very cautious of, because it can very easily cloud intuition.
Madam, I don't know about the person who is going to come in. Right. I don't know about the person who is going to come in for the interview. It's like Dhoni who is going to just put the ball into the stands, right? It's a quick decision which you're going to make. Because of this intuition decision, you cannot spoil a career, right?
Yes, correct. That's exactly where I keep talking about taking calculated risks. Okay, so like I said, the 4 aspects of intuition is look at it holistically. Okay, so when you're taking a decision, it is not only for making money or for the business. It is for doing something for the society at large and for the people in the business, right? So when you're saying people in the business, it's also the candidate who's coming on board. So if your intuitive decision is not looking at that holistically, okay, then it's not the right decision. Then your intuition is wrong. And you have to look at it paradoxically also. Like, okay, not just your procedures and things like that, but look at it from how do you see the individual? Many a time we reject candidates based on the information we have about their qualification, the kind of experience they have, and their history and background and all of that. But if your intuition says that this person is different now, he has changed now, and he or she is going to stick on, and you're looking at it holistically and paradoxically, you're challenging the data, and you're able to challenge the data very strongly without having a rationale behind it, then your intuitive decision could be right. So your intuition has to be so strong that it can challenge the data, and that is when you're intuitively taking right decisions. Otherwise, it's a biased decision.
Right.
It's something that needs to be practiced. One is acknowledging your own personal biases at every stage when you're taking a decision, and being able to counter the bias is something which is very critical for you to be able to take the right intuitive decisions.
Maybe I have worked in the IR environment. These type of decisions, the quick decisions will help in the IR environment.
Absolutely. In IR, intuition is the only thing that builds intelligence. If you're anticipating a problem, and if you're not intuitive, your intelligence is not enough. In IR, it is absolutely, you have to learn to think from their perspective at all times.
The person who is sitting in front of me will also be afraid while taking the right decision without checking with anyone else. And this is the way which I am going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it will help more in the IR rather than I may not go with the recruitment part. The recruitment part is totally different because you have a lot of things involved in that. But in day-to-day IR and employee relations, this type of decisions, it will be very helpful.
Yes.
That's great.
Bang on. In IR, intuition is definitely, I mean, the best IR leaders that I have seen are people whose intuitions have worked more than their I've known. Even
I have gone through that. That's why I'm telling you.
Absolutely. There was a very strong individual whom we had to actually kind of prevent him from entering the premises because of some misconduct and all that. So we actually had to think 7 steps ahead on what could be the consequence. Now, for thinking 7 steps ahead, you can't expect to have any data or information in front of you. And that's where your intuition comes into play. And that has to be played so well that you have to play both the roles. It's like playing chess from both the sides. You have to play both the roles, and that is where intuition comes. You should anticipate what will be the next move and keep your move planned. And in IR, that is the only way to manage behavior in the IR ER environment. And bang on, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's a lot more than being proactive. It's being anticipating even before anything's first signals come, and that's where intuition is. You have absolutely no information. There's no signal. Even signal is an information. You don't even have signals. You're reading a lot of the undercurrents which are coming, which are not even on the surface. That's intuition.
Madam, intuition means actually you mean to tell intuition is a feeling of fear or something it is going to happen?
No, not fear. Intuition is the ability to hear and read whatever is not even said, even before it is said or thought. It's a kind of a way to predict what this person is going to think next. It's not fear, not necessarily only fear. Intuition is something where even before the first signal comes, you're able to predict what this person is going to start thinking. That is intuition. And you feel
simple
it as
like the Dhoni. Can I just give a simple word that Dhoni is going to hit the stems? Through the backhand. Nobody knows that, right? It's like hitting the stems.
Yeah,
have you seen a lot of matches? You've seen Dhoni just hitting the stems from the backhand. It's a quick process.
Yeah, but if you're able to notice something in his body language, which will let you know that he's going to do it.
I know.
No,
that is a reflex action.
I know, ma'am.
No, that is a reflex action. No, it's a reflex.
No, not a reflex action.
No. Bala Venkatesh is saying in a different back, and we are understanding a different back. Bala Venkatesh is saying when Dhoni is looking forward and throwing the ball on the back side, it hit the stems. Assuming that it may hit the stem. Okay. When
let's not debate on the intricacies or nuances of cricket as a game. But what I'm saying is, if somebody's behavior on the field is, if you're able to predict that behavior, even by
predicting
micro body language, even then it is information. Then it is your intelligence about him. For example, I was watching this interview interview of Andre Agassi, and Andre Agassi was talking about Boris Becker. It's a very, very popular interview which is on YouTube, and I was watching that. And Andre Agassi was saying that he was constantly being beaten by Becker, and at one particular point he noticed when Becker is about to hit the ball, he takes his tongue on one side or some such body language. He noticed that. Or he makes a particular lip movement, some such thing. And then he started observing that. Now, this is not Andre Agassi's intuition. This is his intelligence because he's seeing that body language. Now, this happens in a fraction of a second, but he noticed it and he intelligently played the ball against Becker in such a way that he could win a series after that. Okay. But
correct.
without Boris Becker demonstrating any difference in his body language, if Andre Agassi was able to predict how he's going to hit the ball, then that is intuition. Now, in chess, which is a game of tennis is a game of skill. Okay, in skill, there will be a lot of intelligence that will play. Intuition may not be. There won't be too much of scope for intelligence, right? But if you look at chess is a game of strategy. It's not a game of skill. Okay, when it's a game of strategy, you can't see any body language. There's no data how this person is going to move the pieces. That person, your opponent is also thinking depending on what your moves are going to be. But you have to think 10 moves ahead. So in chess, when you're playing a game of strategy, intuition plays a bigger role. So superimposing this strategy and skill in the workplace, when you're moving to decision-making roles with higher accountability, okay, you're playing game of strategy. Intuition is a great skill over there because it will help you to think ahead of competition. But when you're the workforce, when you're playing the game of skill, intelligence is extremely useful because you have to have that data and patterns in front of you to deliver that exceptional performance, right? So thanks for bringing the example of cricket. It took me to tennis and brought me to chess, but this is a beautiful way when you're doing strategic roles, by the time develop your intuitive ability, because intuition helps in strategy and intelligence helps in delivering to the best possible way when you're doing ground roles. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That's a great explanation which you have given. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, good night.
Can I have any closing comments from Harini? She's still there and I would like to hear Harini.
Hello. Hi, this is Sangeeta here.
Yes, Sangeeta.
I have a question, like how
Yes.
you said intuition is so effective. Now, in my organization, I recently have hired one finance manager. So I would like, but I was somehow not convinced. I had an intuition. I'm having an intuition that it would not sustain. How do I sell my intuition to the management?
That's where the challenge is, okay? Because when you are not a decision maker, you're only proposing, right? So when you're proposing something, the decision maker will ask for validation. And intuition is something where you cannot provide validation. So even if you keep on saying that I'm not getting the right kind of vibes, you may not be able to sell it, okay? So you will have to wait till some of your intuition gets converted to some data, some information, and then you'll have to back it up with data and sell it. You cannot sell intuition. That's difficult. That's difficult because your manager also might have some biases against you, for you, whatever. All that will play on their decision-making ability. Now, if the manager or the decision maker is also very intuitive and has a very strong bias control and completely relies on your intuition, then it's very easy to sell. But otherwise, you will require validation. If you have to sell a proposal, you can't sell intuition because people who have to take decisions will ask for validation.
Okay.
So the moment
All
you
right.
start giving things like, information about this person's history, trend, and all that, then it is not your intuition. You think it's your intuition, but you have data. So that is your intelligence about the person. So if it's just intuition, you can't sell.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Hi, Harni. Thank you for asking me to say something. Yeah, so we know
Yes.
while we have this unconscious bias all the time as humans, I know that it's really hard. We need to practice to come out of being unconsciously biased in any kind of decision making. But yes, intuitive decision making, especially in people managerial roles or maybe any field of decision making, is truly important because it makes you actually more humane in connecting with that problem or any statement for that matter. So yes, again, we need to be more conscious while making this decision. Also, to be more, I mean, like you very rightly said just now, it cannot be learned. It has to come from within. So you just have to feel it and you just have to go by your heart and then also use your mind to take that decision. Yeah, so nice session. I'm glad that I made it today and looking forward to more. Thank you, Harni.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Harini. And CCG is doing this amazing 2020 series on 20th of every month at 20 hours. And it's an amazing concept because what I like best about it is it gives participants equal time to speak their views and deliberate on the topic. And all the topics come from the participants themselves. So this is something which is absolutely driven by the team. And I am just trying to justify whatever task given.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful. Thanks. I didn't know this background.
that's how
Actually,
this
the first time actually I'm seeing Harini, madam. Actually, your approach, everything has been excellent. Your insights has been excellent. Actually, even though I've been debating, actually, but your approach towards convincing that, I mean,
no, the debate is good because to a listener, when they're able to see the other perspective, and then it becomes a lot more deep set in them as a takeaway. Because if it's just a monologue, I'm only giving my perspective, then
no,
it doesn't
actually,
stay.
I just want to add one more thing. See, intuition is not purely intuition, prediction. It is also with some judgmental experiences, judgmental thing based on experiences. So the experience is also playing a very big role. It's not just prediction. I don't know this concept.
So the moment it is based on your past experience, then it is still your wisdom. Wisdom is kind of intelligence. Intuition is that first feel, gut feel without any information. And that is when you take your decisions based on gut feel, not with any experience, only then it is intuition. The moment you have your experience built into it, it becomes your wisdom. Your wisdom you have accumulated over years of experience. Then that is not intuition. That's still information. You are right, and that is still information. But intuition is that very first, like Malcolm Gladwell, I think, says in his book, The Blink Theory. That's what it is. The first feel you get is intuition. You have absolutely no data in front of you. And when you take a decision based on that, like sometimes you go shopping, the very first feel you like something, you just decide, you pick it up. You know, that's an intuitive buy.
Today when you started it, I thought, okay, she's very monotonous, she's very dull. Suddenly, my intuition is totally wrong. When you opened up for a Q&A section, my intuition is totally wrong. That itself is telling my intuition is wrong. Unless and until we see it. I'm just saying, when you started,
probably here you had a perception about me that this will be monotonous. Okay, your perception changed, right? Your intuition probably did not play a role here. It's your perception was you heard me for 3 minutes, you found it boring. So you must have, that must have been a perception. But as you heard me, and when I opened up for a conversation, you change your perception. So now that's again you probably worked on some information that you got. Even that's kind of on the border, but it's a little bit intuitive. Yeah. But good.
Yeah, I think there's a very
nice,
fine line
it's a
between
nice discussion. Very nice.
intuition and
It is a very
Mr.
fine
Arun.
line.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Harni just said, that it's a very fine line between perception and intuition. Rightly said. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people know Tamil here, but then they say that ullunarvu, right? That is the intuition. The sudden thing which happens to you, you don't think about it at all. You just go all out. That's intuition. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And for being intuitive, you need to bring that human-centric approach in your thought process. We talk about human-centric approaches and design thinking and all of that. Now, if you start developing a human-centric approach, then your intuition becomes a lot more reliable. Because when you're human-centric, you're not getting data and information.
Actually, my human-centric approach only made me sick. You normally 3 minutes itself, I decide and quit. See, so I thought something should be special. So I thought, okay.
I'm so glad you stayed on.
So I am actually happy that it was a real insight. I didn't waste even a moment of my time. Otherwise, I don't spend even 5 minutes in a webinar if it's not interesting.
But I'm glad you stayed on, because I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure it must have been a good takeaway for everyone here as well.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. So we will be seeing you. I'll surely not miss the entire series. I'll be with you.
Yes, thank you so much. That's nice.
Thank you for Prakash organizing this.
Thank you, Arunji. Thank you so much. He is a very senior person, ma'am.
Oh, no, not at all, yeah.
Don't make
maybe age is senior bracket.
Age wise. Okay, we will take it offline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
We've done the whole hour, so I think we should call it a day, because it's time for people to be with their families. Thank you so much.
Gayatri?
Once again, ma'am, a great a conversation has become a debate right now. But nevertheless, we had a great time with you, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye-bye.